Welcome to the Zag Talk Podcast Live. My name is Guy Danoff, and I'll be your host for today's podcast. And we've got a great episode for you as we're going to be doing basically a pre-game show for Shape Seattle. We're going to be talking about employee wellness on the new special interest group, otherwise known as the SIG. And I'm just going to go ahead and dive in right now. We will have the lines open, so if you want to put in your comments, feel free. I know our panel will be happy to certainly respond to any comments that you make. And at this time, I'll go ahead and introduce our panel. First, we're going to bring on Lisa Paulson. Lisa, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Guy. Excited to be here with this amazing crew.
And you are the Shape America Physical Activity Council Chair. And kind of give everyone a little bit of background of exactly what that is.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar, Shape America, our national organization, has 5 councils, and the Physical Activity Council is one of them. So as you can see in the title of this podcast, we're going to talk about staff wellness today, which fits very nicely and is a very important concept under the Physical Activity Council, but also the Employee Wellness SIG, which we can talk more about later. But the council oversees a lot of work for Shape America. We revise various position statements and documents. We help create the mind and body calendars, and we work on several other tasks as well.
So Lisa, give us a preview of what's going to happen tonight.
Yes. So tonight, the purpose of tonight is to create some excitement. The Employee Wellness SIG is seen under the Shape America Physical Activity Council now. And we have sort of been starting from scratch. So at the end tonight, you'll have a QR code to scan if you're interested in joining the Employee Wellness SIG, you're interested in, getting into some of this work. You are more than welcome to join the SIG. If you maybe are watching this and you used to be part of the Employee Wellness SIG, please do fill out that Google form because we would love to have your voice and make sure that you're receiving that communication. So our goal is to create some excitement about the SIG, but also, most importantly, we have Shape Seattle coming up very, very soon. And the Employee Wellness SIG is going to be hosting a couple events that we don't want you to miss. But we have a special guest that I won't spoil quite yet, but a superintendent who is going to share some really important things about how, if we don't have staff who are well, teachers who are well and value physical activity, what might happen if that's the case. So that's our goal tonight, to talk about staff wellness, to talk about Shape Seattle and ways that you can get involved.
That's awesome. So bring on our next panelist. That's going to be all the way from the state of Texas. Yes. I know you might be a little sad in football news because you lost your running back, I heard today on breaking news, but that's another story about Zeke. But anyways, we're joined now with Francina Hollingsworth. You are the Health and Physical Curriculum Implementation Coach. And talk to us about, your background now with this group, because you've been part of this for over at least a year now that I know of. And certainly what's also your goal of tonight?
Yes. So good evening. I'm the co-coordinator for the SIG. And so I'm just happy that we're able to kind of get the SIG up and running. We've been having a lot of conversations in the background on the direction we want to take the SIG and how to introduce and build up hype for our SIG and get people involved, and also make plans around how we can help our staff and teachers and educators build up their self-care and focus on employee wellness. Because like Lisa said, if us as educators, if we're not well, how are we going to pour into our children, our students, and help them be successful and achieve their goals?
Absolutely. And our third panelist, certainly not least, we're going to bring on now Kristian Ellingsen, and he's the department chair at the Loudoun County Public Schools in Virginia. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did say that correctly.
So Kristian, tell us a little bit about your background and certainly your involvement in the council.
Sure. In terms of the background, I think I've had a varied background, to say the least, when it comes to the profession. So teaching high school in New Jersey for 2 years, Loudoun County for 11 years at the middle school level, then 5 years in Washington, D.C., in the inner city, just, having multiple jobs around education in general. So, and then back now to Loudoun County for this is my returning year to the county. In those experiences, I've seen the need for some more comprehensive wellness attention, right? When it comes to schools and districts and so on. During COVID, we definitely saw burnout. We definitely saw teachers working around the clock. We all had to adjust and make efforts that we weren't necessarily prepared for. And in doing so, having a sense of wellness about ourselves or within our culture at our school, would have definitely helped for retention, for positive culture in the building. So, that's kind of the background that I'm coming from and the perspective that I'm coming from there. Additionally, I do a lot of work with national board candidates and with other organizations as well. I was with the Physical Activity Council for a while too, with Francina and Lisa. And we've just seen the need in all of those avenues for wellness. So it's an important topic. We keep mentioning it. In all of our meetings, we hear about it in our districts, but now we're hoping that we take this to be an effective and initiative that we can implement for real by broadening our membership to the SIG, and then making some effective change in our schools.
Absolutely. Well, welcome. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to throw this question, to Lisa. Lisa, give us now, we know about the Physical Activity Council, but now we got the special interest group. Kind of give us a little bit of background of this shift and why it's so important now, especially as we're now in 2023, certainly heading in over, the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, guys. So as mentioned, the councils do a variety of different things for our national organization. But one of the newer things within the last year or so is that each council oversees different special interest groups. The Employee Wellness SIG fits nicely with the Shape America Physical Activity Council, especially as it relates to a comprehensive school physical activity program and that staff involvement piece, thinking about things I'm sure that will sort of come up underlying around the WISC model, whole community, whole child, whole school. And the Employee Wellness SIG, though we are, still gaining momentum over the last year, and we're hoping to really kind of set that on fire at Shape Seattle and have some really good conversations and start some good work there. We're kind of starting from scratch from this year. And so we really want some more involvement. So if you're watching and you have a passion for staff wellness, you see the importance of needing staff to be, well and healthy and able to pour from not an empty cup, right?
Yeah.
Part of our work. And if you do, some of that work could look like helping serve on different task force and things that relate to employee wellness or staff wellness in schools. And we hope you'll be a part of that work. Does that answer your question, Guy?
Actually, it does. What I think's really great here is that the Physical Activity Council is just getting, larger in the standpoint of the impact. And as our guest is going to tell us very shortly, why employee wellness is at such a premium today. And the fact is that this group is taking action. And in just a few weeks, we're all going to get a chance to hear all the amazing things and opportunities that the Employee Wellness SIG offers all Shape America members and involvement. So I'm really excited. That's why I was very excited about tonight's podcast, because after our guest speaks, I'm going to fill in a couple of gaps into this conversation myself on some of the media coverage that I've been part of, doing the podcast and the on the move type of videos that I do. So with that, let's go now over to Kristian. Kristian, I know kind of things started, everything kind of has its own genesis, if you would. Talk to us a little bit about the Employee Wellness blog and kind of the impact that it's starting to have, because I think it's a great starting point and something that I think our viewers would like to hear more about.
Yeah. So one of the, this is an example of really an avenue that we could create impact, right? So this is how we can get our initiative out there. This is how we can speak to our priorities as a special interest group. We did this blog with Active Schools back in January. So if you were to ever look that up for our listeners here. But the idea here was that we would try to provide some ideas to readers on ways that they can influence their wellness while also having a focus on improving their skills and abilities as teachers, as influencers in their building, and then also positively benefiting their physical activity at certain points too. So if I were to just, I'll go through one or two lines from each of the points. There's 5 points just to give the audience an idea of some of the things that we might be involved in as a special interest group. The first point here, I'll just read it verbatim and then I'll summarize, is become so focused on working, improving, and reaching outside your comfort zone while you're at work that you do not have time to engage in or elevate the gossip and complaining that often occurs in many schools. This goes on to then point out, the importance of just using your time wisely. When you're efficient with your time and you're not, spinning your wheels, so to speak, you get more time to yourself to work on, elements for your own wellness. The second point that we had was, when engaging with new teachers, discuss what their perceived strengths and weaknesses are from their point of view as well as yours. This could be the mentor-mentee relationship or just a new teacher in your environment. Here the idea goes on, the point goes on to make that that you can benefit another person while also seeking to obtain benefit as well. So you're bouncing ideas off of a new teacher. Maybe they take on some of your points, maybe they don't. But it's a conversation. You're enriching your relationships, your emotional wellness, your supportive nature in the school. And it's just a benefit to everyone in the long run. Not to mention retention rates are a big issue right now. Any help you can with a new teacher is going to be beneficial to the whole culture and the whole building. The third point that we make was when socially interacting with your coworkers, especially those from other content areas or grade levels, incorporate an invitation for them to visit your content area setting. An example of this at my school currently is inviting people to come in and experience pickleball for the first time, right? And it's just a way that people can see each other in a different light. They can, teachers from other grade levels or around the building are able to see your methods and your strategies and the good things that you do while you're in the PE setting, or it could be the health setting. But the idea there is that you're going to be, for us in this example, is that we're active, we're physically active, we're going to, we get that endorphin rush just by being around people in an active manner, and we get to see, get all benefit from it. Beyond that, when a health or PE teacher can see another classroom teacher's methodologies, it helps to elevate each other as teachers in the building, right? And I think that's a valuable feeling when it comes to overall wellness and culture. Fourth one is if the time should ever arise where you find yourself ahead on your work, and I know, right? But should that time ever, maybe it's on leap year, maybe leap day, I don't know. And you're in a positive, helpful mood, consider going to the custodian, consider going to an administrator, consider going to a cafeteria worker, and just offering energy and your activity and your muscle, just looking to seek physical activity outlets that will benefit the school, that will encourage relationships, that will, develop deeper relationships, and again, create a better culture and positivity in the building. I've done a ton of work and a ton of research with the AFT and with the other organizations talking about teacher retention, and it's definitely a passion of mine, and that's another reason why I am interested in this Employee Wellness SIG, because that's a definite factor in retention. The fifth point, again, just to round it out very quickly, I know I'm taking a lot of time here, but it reads, mindfulness may be a buzzword, but it's for a good reason. Engaging in mindfulness and or meditation looks different for everyone. No need to be in a state of Zen or feel like you're floating. Just give yourself the gift of presence. And, that goes on to just say that we need time to ground ourselves, that we need time to just relax, that you need time to take a step back and take a deep breath and then just focus on things that are going to be beneficial to you rather than maybe some of the negative elements that you put up with. Now, again, this is one blog post, but I think it really does serve as a good example of things that you could be doing with us, at the Employee Wellness Special Interest Group. And it's, just to offer ideas, bounce ideas off each other with people from around the country and see what works in our buildings, what could be better, and then really just try to drive forward the idea that wellness is an important issue.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that the blog forum allows for is even, other contributors that can maybe share some success stories or share some of the things that they're doing in their schools that are making a difference or making an impact. And you've got a perfect forum to do that. However, you plan to do that, whether it's monthly or however you're scheduling it. But definitely this is great, materials for people. It's easy to share and it's easy for people to, collaborate with each other on this initiative. So, kudos to all three of you for kicking off the first blog on starting the new year with educator self-care, because I can tell you that self-care has been a big topic over the last 2 years in the media. So many times I've had the opportunity to host podcasts or even be on national radio. Self-care is a topic that comes up quite often. And so I'm really excited that you all, have got the ball rolling now with this new initiative, and certainly you've got the blog. So with that, Amy, I'm going to turn this over to you and kind of let you briefly introduce our guest. And certainly when she comes on, I'll give more background on her, but I want you to talk about why you felt it was so important to hear from a superintendent of all things.
So when I was listening to Kristian talk about that blog, even though I was a part of that work, though not all of it, I was thinking about, aren't those all things we try so hard to get for kids?
Yep.
Like we strive so hard that, the importance of social emotional learning in schools and supporting the whole child. So much of that we keep pouring and pouring and pouring out for our kids. But yeah, what about us? And so, to me, I think about, I want to know, what are the existing policies at different places? Every state is different. Every district is different. And at the end of the day, many times it comes down to the head of the building, right? It comes down to the principal. It comes down to the superintendent, the director. And how are they going to, support staff in making sure that they are well, that they can perhaps take a self-care or a mental health day if needed, that there's professional development, that there's not just one lonely, likely the folks watching or listening to this are maybe the physical activity champion or leader in their school, right? But it can't just fall on you. We need a crew. We need multiple role models for these kids, but also, it needs to be a tribe. And so having a school leader in that role is very critical. So I'm so happy we have a special guest to join us tonight to talk more about that.
So without further ado, we're going to bring her on. This is Amy Ruzicka. Hi, Amy. And Amy is the superintendent of Bayless School District in Missouri. And if you've been following anything that I do with On the Move Mo as part of Missouri Healthy Schools, her school has been featured a few times on that. Just recently, she was actually as part of a meeting at the Missouri Department of Education, which got a shout out for the work that they're doing right now, that employee wellness initiatives are part of that, as well as their school wellness. And last but not least, the video that we did, if you want to see it, you just go to Missouri Healthy Schools and you just go to to our video section of On the Move playlist. You'll see the Bayless School District video that we did with Amy her assistant principal, as well as one of their lead teachers. And they actually did a study on how to basically improve attendance in GPA and looking at the 4 components of fitness. And so, Amy, we are just so delighted that you are here tonight. You've had a chance to hear what we're talking about. So now kind of give us that 30,000 foot view, if you could, on this topic that's obviously so elusive. And I'd just be curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Yes, absolutely. So as I was listening into the first segment, it was really exciting to hear the passion in everyone's voice. And I'm very passionate about this topic from a few different vantage points. First of all, staff retention is absolutely critical. And as Francina had shared, we're pouring into our students. And so for us to give them our best, we need to be at our best. And you can't pour from an empty cup. So often when people hear things like self-care and employee wellness, and I've been guilty of this, I must admit, over my tenure as well, we think of it as one more thing stacked on our plate. And I challenge people to shift their mindset and view employee and student wellness as the plate, that we know everyone must be well. Our district motto is we exist to help every student discover the best possible versions of themselves. And that's our challenge for our employees as well, that we want them to be the best versions of themselves so that they can serve our kids to their best ability and to give them that love, that support, that encouragement, that challenge that they deserve. So I own it. I know the full weight of it. I have to set the tone. It's important at all levels of our organization, and our teacher leaders have been absolutely critical in this work. And I know that I need to model it from my position all the way up and down our organization. So I'm going to start by sharing some practices that have been successful for us. And I'm going to strategically start with practices that are very easy and generally are free or low cost. So one of the things that I started, and it has been transformational, is I told all of our principals, all of our staff, that during non-school hours, unless it is emergency, please use the email scheduler. People need a brain break. And so, really looking at how do we give ourselves that time to take care of ourselves, to connect with our family and friends, to rest. And so something as simple as the email scheduler, that has been a tremendous relief just to give people that opportunity to catch their breath. Wellness Wednesdays, this was actually led out by our PE health team. So they've invited any teachers that would like to come and work out with their PE classes to do so on their plan. So it's neat because teachers are modeling it. You could have a math teacher playing pickleball with the PE health class. So modeling that love of physical activity. And I know our teachers have reported, much like we know with physical activity, their mood improves, they feel more energized, they feel more focused throughout the day. And again, setting that example for their students. Some other pieces, we do mindful minutes. So building wide, starting the day. I know Kristian talked about in the blog the importance of meditation, and that can look different ways. So just doing a mindful minute where everybody stops, breathes, grounds themselves, they're aware of their surroundings, kind of, getting back in the moment. And then offering opportunities. Some of the best ways to be mindful is to acknowledge your emotion. How are you feeling? And to think about how you're going to move through that emotion. And even if it's you're feeling happy, it can be paying it forward and thinking of a random act of kindness or a compliment you can give somebody, or practicing gratitude. Or if it's something, and we've encouraged kids, if you're feeling stressed out and you recognize that I need to go in the back of the room, and if I do some jumping jacks or I tense my muscles and release, I'm going to feel better. We want them to be able to do that, and staff as well. A couple other pieces. All of our meetings with my principals, I model this, and then they're doing it in their buildings, is a check-in before we dive in. And often that is doing those mindfulness practices, or, hey, we're about to dive into a meeting. Let's take a minute, let's stretch, let's be physically active, so that we can engage our brains. And then, we have a number of things that do take some financial investment, but are well worth it. A lot of it was achieved through Missouri Healthy Schools grant funding, but looking at student and employee fitness spaces so that they have the opportunity. I know we're all busy. Not everybody can get to a gym, but having that right down the hall, where you can do resistance, weights, and that there are people there that will teach you how to use them. Professional development. We did a great professional development on brain breaks and physical activity in the classroom, where the teachers weren't sitting there learning about the importance of physical activity. They were being physically active, and then really monitored how did that help with their energy, their focus, that mental capacity throughout the day. So, I could go on and on. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this, but, I challenge people to think about, how do you find ways in your schools that are low cost, no cost, that just become part of your day, part of your culture. It's not one more thing, it is the thing.
Wow.
I love that. I love that, Amy. So, I think, again, if we have phys ed teachers, maybe some health ed teachers, other professionals in our field, how do we, if we don't have a principal like you, maybe on a lone island, how do we get more schools to do this work? What should a PE or health teacher do? Like step one, even, maybe they don't have any grant funding, but some of those first things you mentioned that are low cost or no cost, like what would you advise someone in a school building to do first steps?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. And I think with leading out any change, we know there can be some resistance, and, there are those eager first followers that will dive in. And so I would tell people, start small, we call them the coalition of the willing, or find those first followers who you can get excited and passionate about the work. Find a way to model it. So for example, if it's something after school or during lunchtime, and you can carve out a little bit of time to say, hey, why don't we during lunchtime go out and take a walk around the track? Or we have to meet as a department to go through our goals. Let's do a walking meeting. So I would encourage people to start small, and then also gather data, both quantitative and qualitative, that you can go to your school leader and say, this was an idea. Here's who I got on board. Here's the results that I saw. I think about it as that elevator sales pitch. And if you can give the bottom line up front, we call it bluff. The bottom line is, this works as evidenced by blank, blank, and blank. And, rarely would a leader say no to a great idea. And at that point, it's not just an idea, it's something you've actually tested, and now you can be ready to expand.
Yeah, Amy, with that, could you maybe go a little deeper on the teacher element? Because obviously a lot of our audience are teachers. And I think it was a great point that you made, that obviously, they've got to be healthy themselves. But how do you get them involved in the leadership role of, like you said, that we can't just think of this as, one more thing, but how you've been able to get your teachers engaged in some leadership in these initiatives?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's definitely a mistake to assume that we know what everyone needs in terms of wellness. And so the first step is to ask, because what one group of teachers may need and perceive as self-care and us taking care of them could be very different than another group. And so getting the teachers in front and center, talk to us about what opportunities you see, what do you need? So what does support look like from us, from your colleagues? And then what are you hearing from others, and inviting as many voices to the table. It's obvious when you have those conversations, you see that spark and you see that passion. So recognizing that and saying, you know, I could really tell you're passionate about having more outdoor lunch spaces so that people can get that vitamin D, that fresh air. It just makes everybody happy, especially in Missouri because it's cold and gray all winter. I would love for you to research, and I'm happy to help, but some different grant funding opportunities. How can we get more outdoor seating? What are some of the innovative ways we can approach this? So really grabbing on to people's passions and empowering them to take the lead and to come back with some of those ideas and suggestions. But before you can even do that, you have to ask the question. You have to invite them to the table.
Absolutely. Lisa, any other questions you got?
I have a lot more questions, so I'll ask one more.
Please.
Then I'll over to Francina and Kristian.
Yeah.
I actually was recently doing a research project about a teacher who has formal physical activity leadership training about how to do this work, and not just staff wellness, but we're talking whole, comprehensive school physical activity programs and other elements of establishing an active school culture. And my question was, what role does formal training have in establishing an active culture? And while we would love to say it's everything, it's very important, you bet. But like we've mentioned here, one person can't do this work by themselves. That school that I'm studying has an active school culture because they have staff that value it in their lives. They engage in physical activity in their own lives. They do movement integration in the classrooms because they value it. They maybe also teach spin at the local rec center. They, their families and their communities are already involved. So that one teacher having that training maybe isn't the world of a difference. It's important. Somebody's got to be the spokesperson, right? And the liaison sort of, but it's because they have the tribe. And so I know that not all schools have that. And not only that, but probably most schools don't necessarily have that. Yeah. And especially thinking about post or wherever we are with COVID, what besides money, what are the major barriers that you think school leaders face the answer is no until you ask, but one asks. And if the answer is no, like that is one more thing, or we don't have money or space or room for that. Like what are the major barriers that you think school leaders face when it comes to staff wellness, and then perhaps some creative solutions?
Absolutely. Great question. And that's really exciting. I would love to learn more about that school that you're studying with that formal training. So I would say the barriers in education and in life in general, we hear this often, and it's time. Again, thinking about one more thing when we have all of these competing priorities. I think really looking at what are some ways that we can replace current practices with a practice that supports wellness. So it's not one more thing. How do we work smarter, not harder? And so I think that's always a good sell. Definitely funding. There are a lot of opportunities and many things you can do low cost. But at the end of the day, you hit a certain point where the things you want to do have that price tag. And so that's where that teacher leadership comes in. And our teachers don't have the formal activity training that you described. I would love to look into that. But we have done some work with the National Teacher Leader Model Standards, which outline no matter what content area you're serving, how teachers can be leaders in their school systems, even without a formal title. Where there is no leader, you become one. I would say buy-in as well. Buy-in is usually tied to the time and the money piece. But as I described earlier, I think finding those first followers and not just asking, okay, here's an idea, can I do it? There are some things you can start organically and then bring it and say, I've tried this, here are the results. So it's more tangible. And I think the other big barrier is assumptions. And that's assuming that we know what people need.
Right.
And I don't know what every single employee needs. We need to ask them. And so I think it's that communication piece. What does support look like in helping you be well and rested and ready to give your all to these kids and to support one another? So I would just say start small, try to bring some somewhat tested solutions, so something that's beyond that idea. And so just dive in, be passionate, but like you said, you can't do it alone. But I know there's a lot of teachers feeling the same way. And if you can grab just a few, you can start a movement.
I wonder, Amy, again, referring back to the retention, I wonder if you've found, referring back to retention from when I was talking about that earlier, and then you're talking about what a teacher needs. So if teacher needs are met on a broad scale in a building or in a district, retention rates are going to be higher. It doesn't actually, in the research that I've done, it doesn't actually come down to more money. It doesn't actually come down to, less work or a better schedule or, some of those things that you might think. It's actually the culture and the feeling that of value that people have in their workplace, right? So that's what I have found. I wonder if you've done any surveys or background knowledge on that, on the efficacy of those issues with a wellness plan, if there is an enhancement there.
Absolutely. So I have, I'm really passionate as well about employee motivation and retention, looking at those culture pieces, because I too have seen the research on the factors that most engage, motivate, and retain staff. And actually, my sister, for her doctorate, did that study on an international basis. And it was interesting because the results were the same, no matter where you are.
Wow.
And she studied rural Africa and Afghanistan. So really looking at opportunities for teacher voice and leadership, because tapping into everybody's passion and purpose. Everybody has a native genius, something they do easily and freely that really fuels them. Likewise, and for many, we found it was around, they noticed that the pandemic was so incredibly difficult. Teacher burnout was high. And so we saw some of those people who were very passionate about being part of the solution rise to the top, but we had to instill that teacher leadership culture first, and saying that we want you to have that voice at the table. And so we have seen, from the teacher leadership standpoint, definitely much improved culture and climate, and likewise folding in our wellness practices. In one of our buildings, it improved just overall culture and climate by, I want to say 59%. So tremendous.
Yeah.
And, I'm constantly finding ways to help both quantitatively and qualitatively delve into this. But it's one of those pieces that also you can feel. You can walk into a school and you can feel that culture. You can sense, are people feeling excited? Are they feeling, passionate about the work? Or are they feeling drained? And sometimes it can change from classroom to classroom. But in short, yes, I have seen some very, very positive data coming from this. Have I disaggregated the wellness practices with some of our other work? Not entirely, but that's on the radar. We've done it for students, and now we need to do it for staff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Amy, you just got a big shout out from Brandy Lynch. She's part of Most Shape Leadership, and she says, "Wow, those are incredible numbers." And absolutely, and great question, Kristian. And just want to, Francina, anything from your vantage point that maybe you'd like to ask?
Yes, because we're all passionate about this, but we do still, in this climate, in this educational climate, we still have people that are hesitant to implement employee wellness and even student wellness. So, from your position, what do you feel are some dangers of school districts, schools not
Mm,
focusing and implementing some resources or even some simple tools to enhance employee wellness or even student wellness?
Hmm. Absolutely. Some of the dangers are increased behaviors
right.
because they're going to get that stress out in some way. And so we can choose to be proactive and provide some positive outlets. And again, can we prevent everything? Absolutely not. But getting ahead of it and providing those positive outlets is critically important. Attendance, you know, we have all seen, especially through, and I would say arguably last year was probably the most difficult year that we've had throughout the pandemic because there was that pandemic fatigue
Right.
and burnout was very high. And so I think across the country, we saw poor teacher attendance in some areas, poor student attendance, and it wasn't just because of quarantine or people positive for COVID. It was just that absolute exhaustion and wearing down of their immune system. So all of those factors then contribute to decreased student achievement, decreased student engagement in school activities. And so I do credit, we had a piece come out last week that our school district had the top English language arts and math growth in the region.
Hmm.
We had significant student growth, and that was from last year and one of the toughest years ever. And so I think looking at that wellness, everything through the wellness lens, that if we can help people feel psychologically safe, that they're going to be supported, we can help them be active and well and find places to connect. They're going to be more likely to come to school and work. They're going to feel supported. They're going to feel valued.
Yeah.
And so we've really seen that continue to increase exponentially.
Wow. Amy, we just want to thank you so much for just, joining us tonight. And again, just from your vantage point, and to be honest, it's just so refreshing to hear it from your lens. I know a lot of times we like to speculate like what superintendents think, but what impresses me so much about what you've been doing, what your predecessor was doing, Ronald Tucker, and what you've been doing at Bayless as a team, especially a leadership team, is that you guys are constantly looking to getting better, even if it's 1% every week.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you're always on the lookout for other aspiring leaders, and you're willing to listen to people. And I've been very blessed to sit in on your wellness council quarterly meetings, as and just seeing the teamwork. I mean, it's impressive to see about 16, 18 people, literally sitting around this big table in the form of of a big U, and just seeing everyone give their reports and passionately giving those reports. And it didn't start there. You're there now 5 years later, 6 years later. But I just think it's so encouraging to let people know that, hey, this can be done because you've all worked through those growing pains, and that's why I think it's so great that, you take the time to be on a podcast like this, where our viewers, really want to learn more about this on not just the what, obviously, but also the how to. And so thank you for framing the hows for us. Certainly we understand the why, but the how you go about this was so helpful tonight. And Lisa, any final question?
No, Guy, you said it really well. And Amy, we just so appreciate your time. Not only do we appreciate your passion for this work, but also, to take the time, on on an evening to engage in a podcast that's, part of our field is really powerful for these listeners to hear. And I can't wait to hear, maybe people will say, hey, I shared this link tonight podcast with my principal, and here's what happened. This work, even right now just talking about it can make a difference. So we're just so appreciative of your time.
Amy, let me ask you one last question. If people want to learn more about the things that you're all doing, what URL link could they go to learn more about the Bayless School Districts and what you're all doing?
Absolutely. So as you shared earlier, they can go to the Missouri Healthy Schools on the Move videos. That gives a great snapshot of our district. You can go to our website where just Google Bayless School District in Missouri. I can certainly drop my, let me see if I can do this, drop my email in the chat. We're always happy to collaborate. So if you go to our website, Bayless School District in St. Louis, there's everyone's contact information. And no, I appreciate you having me, and I was happy to be here. I often say to people, look at your schedule, look at your priorities.
Yeah.
And so if wellness is a priority, that needs to be reflected in your schedule.
Yeah.
And so kudos to all of you. I'm very passionate about teacher leadership. You all are the ones that make the magic happen every single day. So we need teachers leading out this work, and then people like me in the superintendent role supporting that work. So, but you all are the masters. And so we greatly appreciate you and all that you're doing.
Well, we just want to say thank you again, Amy. And thanks you for joining us. And if you want to go ahead and put that in the private chat at the end of the broadcast, I'll make that available on one of our, on the screens. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I'm energized. So let's get to the fun stuff. We're going to do a little Shape Seattle preview and some coffee talks. And it's that time. And Francina, what do we got cooking, right? Besides some coffee.
Yes, so we have some coffee coming up for our Shape America members. So if you're planning on attending Shape Seattle, we have some special things in store for you. So mark your calendars. Wednesday at 9:30, we will have a coffee talk over Employee Wellness SIG. It's going to be a meet and greet, and we could discuss what's happening on your campus, what great things are you implementing on your campus or in your school district. Thursday at 9:30, we will also have a coffee talk focused on educator self-care. So once again, having a dialogue on self-care. What are some things that we could do to enhance our self-care and share our ideas? And then Friday, you guys want to make sure that you attend our presentation. We're going to be focused on From Burnout to All In, the wellness and retention connection. So this is going to be great. So join us at 10:45 on Friday. And then the PA Council will also be having some coffee talks as well. So if you can't make it to the Employee Wellness SIG, make sure you make it to the PA Council coffee talk. But you're going to catch us in both places.
That is awesome. And then what if someone is very interested, or maybe they're inspired tonight by all that we've been discussing, how to join the Employee Wellness Special Interest Group? How do we go about doing that?
So attending Shape Seattle, we hope so. But whether you're attending or not, you can, if Guy can put the QR code on the link. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video, or if you're live, scan it now, pause it if you're watching this later, and you can scan that QR code. It's a very simple Google form that it will bring you to, just putting in some contact information like your name and email, and then a little bit around your background about, staff involvement. Have you done any work related to this? If not, no worries. We still can't wait to have you be part of the team. And just why do you want to serve? So very simple Google form. Once you scan that QR code, and then you'll receive communications about upcoming work that we have going on that you can potentially engage in.
So that one is obviously for the blog itself, but then the one you were just talking about is going ahead and joining the Employee Wellness SIG on this particular QR code. So that's why we had 2 QR codes for you. And so you can go ahead and scan this now, or as Lisa said, you can pause the recording and go ahead and do that. But they've made it very easy for you to go ahead, get more information, get plugged in, find out what's going to be happening in just a few weeks at Shape Seattle. And it's all right here for you. And certainly feel free to share this podcast with as many people as possible that that are passionate, certainly about employee wellness, as we've talked about tonight. So with that, I'm going to bring everyone back, and let me go ahead and get out of this screen. So now I'm going to bring everyone back. And so what I'd like to do now is it's time for the final word. And so we've had a lot to cover tonight. We had Amy, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and post that right now. And let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to put Amy's contact info in here. So that way, if you want to get in contact with her, and here it is.
I was going to say earlier, I hope she's ready for a lot of
all I can say is, like you said, I've known her for 4 years. And like I said, we've done lots of media coverage and certainly, on the move success stories. But what's been fascinating to me, and Kristian, you hit on this pretty hard, and that is that culture. It's getting that culture developed. And if you can get that culture developed, it's amazing how more people can kind of come out of the woodworks, and you're building that, collaboration, you're building those relationships. And then all of a sudden, maybe you start like Amy would say, we started with like 4 people. And now I'm not kidding. They have probably 18, 20 people and I was there last spring for their, school wellness initiatives. And so, this is where it starts. And anyways, if anyone would like to reach out to our featured speaker tonight, Superintendent from Bayless School District, Amy Ruzicka, there is her direct email. Feel free to reach out to her with any questions. And again, thank you, Amy, for allowing us to share that information. All right. So now we're at the final word, and we'll go ahead and start with Francina. We've had a great night, and kind of give us your final word for tonight.
Yes. My thing, if you have the capacity, ask your principal or your superintendent to create a wellness committee and start off small and, start thinking about things that you could do to enhance, employee wellness on your campus. And it could be just adult field trips, you guys hanging out after hours, going to fitness classes, but just think about that. If you have the capacity, if not, then just a group of you guys get together and do something together unofficially. If you don't have the capacity to serve on or chair the committee.
Absolutely. I like what Amy was saying. I would love to be part of the pickleball action. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to be able to play the math department. It'd be kind of fun. So, all right. So, Kristian, final word. What do you got for us, my friend?
Well, like I said earlier, you can come to our school. We got the pickleball going. We'll get there.
There we go.
Yeah, I think we're looking to expand this group. So we're looking for good ideas. We're looking for, like Francina said, people with capacity to just go about an employee wellness special interest group that keeps it light and fun and positive, because that's what's going to help keep us well. And then through those positive characteristics of the group, can we implement and affect change in our settings? Talk about those ideas, and can we really get this thing off the ground as far as implementation? It would start locally in each of our each of our grade levels or each of our content areas or each of our schools, but we would hope to expand it to everywhere around the country as best we could. So that's my final word is just are you that person? Are you somebody who's interested in can you jump on board and have some good times and good talks?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kristian. And finally, last but not least, Lisa, give us your final word.
There's something just so rejuvenating and refreshing about hearing from a passionate leader about the importance of wellness and physical activity. And, even though if no one's a physical activity teacher, right? But everyone in our field, physical educators, health educators, teacher educators, K-12 teachers, all the people in our field know the importance of this work. But I know I share the rejuvenation by hearing a principal, or a superintendent talk about how much she values this and what's working well in her school. And I think there's a lot to learn. So my final word is to pick one or two things to start with. So starting small and bite-sized, potentially that don't cost a lot of money, don't take a lot of time maybe. But starting small, and the answer is no until you ask. And then with those one or two things, hopefully you can join us in Seattle for some of those coffee talks and that session, and we'll help you learn, ways to support that ask with some data, because data can sometimes sound scary. But if you're not attending Shape Seattle, pick one or two things and support that with data, and go to your admin and just ask. And if you need help, we're here. Feel free to reach out to us as well.
Absolutely. Lisa, thanks you for sharing that. And, kind of my final word is I just want to continue to amplify the work of this group. I know I feel very blessed and honored that all the way from Stephanie Morris, Shape America's CEO, to Joey Martelli, Carly Wright, this is a very important part of that process. So I feel very honored and blessed to be hosting this specific podcast, because it's near and dear to my heart, considering the fact that I actually got my degree in corporate fitness, and I've done some of these things. And that's why, I love the initiations. I love when the cultures are changed. I certainly love the data and the results. And like I said, I'm all in to help this group continue to do all the great work that you're all doing, and certainly amplifying all these other amazing stories that are happening around the country. People who would like to share those things with us. And we do have a comment, so let's pull it up. That's what I love about the live show. You never know what you're going to get. Oh, yeah, here we go. And there you go. Yes, Lisa, what I heard you say was, don't be afraid to shoot your shot. Good old, I think that's a basketball reference, right?
The answer is no until you ask. Just shoot. You can't put points on the board, I think, right? Unless you shoot the basketball.
Yeah, Michael Jordan said something like that. I used to have a poster of his. He said something similar, So anyways, no, it's very true. And so I cannot wait to see everyone at Shape Seattle. It's going to be a great time. I can't wait for your coffee talks. I know I will have a scheduling conflict because I'll be actually talking about TikTok for advocacy during those same times. But nevertheless, on your other sessions, I should be able to attend those as well. So anyways, we want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. I hope you got something out of tonight's podcast for our amazing group here. My name is Guy Danoff. We want to thank you for watching it all right here on the Zag Talk Podcast Live. Thank you and good night.